The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Yes, coming to you cordless, everybody. It's Monday night, July 8th, 2024. It's 11 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States, 8 p.m. on the West Coast, 2 o'clock in the afternoon at the Sydney Opera House in Sydney, Australia. And here where I'm sitting in Northeast Minneapolis, it's 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time. My voice is cracking up. And I am Jim Peters, and welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. This is episode number 133, if you want to mark your scorecards at home. All right, how you guys doing? I got to tell you, we had a fantastic, the weather here has been terrific. We haven't had, the entire country's boiling. We haven't had a hot day here so far this summer, what I consider hot. I think we've had one day where we just barely cracked 90 degrees. That's generally hot. It's been basically around 80 pretty much every day. Just weather, fantastic weather. What I got to tell you? I've got to tell you what I know. I'll tell you. We got it going on. My wife says, "Yeah, okay, boomer." Yeah, I know. We got it going on. That's right. So I'll tell you what we got going on. We got a big show. Big show. Tonight's Monologue Monday. No guests tonight. Plenty to talk about. I didn't say shit. Unbelievable. At this point, I can't not keep notes for the show. I do it every morning, regardless of whether we have a show going on or not. So after 3 days of this, or actually 4, what am I talking about? We took off for the 4th of July. I got notes up the wazoo. It's like, I got a little system, cut and paste, blah, blah, blah. Can do it all on my phone. And I hate my phone because I have enormous hands and huge fingers. I can't type on my phone with crap, but yet it's convenient because it's always there. So I have a Motorola G7 phone, which has the biggest single screen of any cell phone on the market. Last time I checked, anyway, when I bought it, and that's the reason because I got giant hands. So, I've learned to play on the show on my phone. I figured it out. See, okay, boomer. Yeah. All right. So tonight? Call me up, man. It's like I'm going to give you the instructions on calling for a second. There's a ticker at the bottom of the screen that has all the info on it. You can either call up with your webcam, you can call up on your phone, like dial in, like in a radio station, and you can text us in real time too. There's a separate telephone number for that. So yeah, we got all that stuff going. Thursday night, Mark Tapscott from the Epoch Times, he's going to be joining us, and this is going to be really interesting because he's on Capitol Hill every single day. He's been doing this gig for like 40 years. He knows everybody in Congress on a first-name basis. So it's going to be really interesting to see his take on what's going on here and also the coming up Republican convention. We were supposed to have a guest tomorrow night. Guy bowed out at the last minute. And this is really interesting. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you who he is or who he works for. We had him booked, and we wanted to talk to him about, the Biden dementia crisis, for lack of a better term. What's that? BDC, I think. Yeah, it's along with Trump derangement syndrome. We now have the Biden dementia crisis, and his editors at his publication asked him not to. They said they didn't want him talking about that on the media, like I'm the media, but whatever, Okay, that's cool. When we'll help, but I can't tell you. Like, I remember if he actually specifically told me not to mention who he is, what's going on here. And knowing this publication, I have to say, it kind of surprises me. But whatever. So anyway, Mark Tapscott's coming tomorrow. So we were going to have Tim Conaway on Wednesday. He's the former executive editor of Hustler magazine, which, okay, we joke about that a lot, that he was the actual guy who picked the pictures out, the winning pictures for the beaver hunt. That was him. He did that. But the fact is, he was the editor of Hustler during the 15-year period of its highest popularity. And he went on to be the editor for about a dozen different magazines. Not that Hustler isn't legitimate, but like Men's Fitness. He did like a couple car magazines. I can't remember what they were. So guys are really, really experienced journalists, So we're going to have him on Wednesday. We might have him on tomorrow. We'll see. I haven't been able to get him to get back to me yet. So that's what's going on here. So yeah, call me up. So here's the deal. There's 3 ways you can do it. If you go to jimandknight.com/call, and I got a cursor here and a mouse, and I can't constantly got to remind myself you can't see it. But you can go to jimandknight.com/call with your webcam. I know this is weird, with the device that your camera's on, and you click the big blue button at the top of that web page, and it connects your camera to our virtual studio. That's the way it works. Yeah, it's an unusual thing. Yes, it's kind of counterintuitive. You go to a web page to connect your camera, but it works great. Seriously, it's easier than making a FaceTime call. If you don't want your face on the screen, which we've determined, Talkers Magazine says we're the first talk show in America to take video phone calls. We've determined after doing this for almost a year now that a lot of people don't want their face on the screen, so they don't call. So we have a regular audio phone number. You can dial in just like calling a radio station. That's and it goes right there. It's 563 right here. 563-999-3435. That's going to be going on the entire show. That information, you'll be able to get it. It scrolls by every 20 seconds. So 563-999-3435. That will be audio only. If you want to text us in real time, you can send a text to 408-458-5088. And I got that. I got a monitor on the side here, shows the text. It's a perfect world, man. It's like we got it going on. All this shit actually works. It's amazing. It's incredible. I want to acknowledge our sponsor. We have a sponsor here. I know it's unbelievable. It's my former employer, Konk News. And here's the front page of Konk News in real time, about half an hour ago. There was something here that was on the front page that I wanted to point out to you. But anyway, now I've forgotten it. I'm not going to scroll the page up because I screw up the whole display. So I'm just not going to do it. Anyway, Konk News is a news aggregator. They go out every 3 hours. Their servers go out and collect news from 75 different news sources, bring them back, and lay them out on the front page in chronological order, regardless of the source. So now you go to most news aggregators, and they will have the top 10 stories, the latest stories from Breitbart, and then the latest stories from Fox News. No, this mixes them all together. So the newest posts, regardless of where they're from, end up at the top of the page. And here we have, and I can tell this because there's the little logo. If you look at it's a little graphic at the bottom left corner of every post. That's hotair.com on the left. And I can't see the graphic in the center. And that's my picture on the right. It's very nice of them because they sponsor the show. They put my picture up. I really appreciate it. And then below that, there's the latest political cartoon too. So at any rate, yeah. So these stories are laid out regardless of their source, and if you the photos are all from the articles. They're actually from the articles. The headlines are not rewritten. If you click through, you don't go to an interstitial page. You don't go to an ad. You don't go to the front page of the website. You go directly to that story. It is the closest thing to a traditional quote unquote newspaper you find online. It's fantastic. So, and also, you don't need to sign up for this. There's no registration, no subscription. It's free. There's ads on this page, in between the stories. But yeah, fine, you can deal with that. And besides, some of the stuff's kind of helpful. You might want to actually know about some of that stuff. That's the interesting thing about advertising. If advertising is well placed, in other words, if the medium knows what you want to see, advertising can be very helpful. You learn about new stuff. It's good. So at any rate, this changes every 3 hours. You go at 10 a.m. You can if you click through a reasonable amount of stories, you can spend about 2-3 hours reading this. It's if you're a news junkie, it's like a dream come true. It's a wet news junkie dream. That's what it is. And you come back at 3 p.m., 5 hours later, 80% of it's changed, and the stuff that hasn't changed is pushed to the bottom of the page. So you'll see, notice when you get there. and you can not only will you burn up an enormous amount of time if you look at your time waster, you will be very, very informed. And they're very judicious about the news sources they use. So you're not going to find MSNBC or any of that crap or CNN on here. None of that bullshit. So anyway, check that out. It's at conk.com, conk.com. And want to thank them for sponsoring the show. Thank you very much. All right. So also, I want to thank David Strom for coming on last Thursday. We had a fantastic discussion. And we promised, and we kind of did, we had kind of done this, but here's the deal. We did promise we were going to link to all the stories of David's that we were talking about on Hot Air. He's the associate editor of hotair.com. But there's so many of them, I just put a link up in our blog to his author page. And basically everything past June 28th is a story about the Biden dementia crisis. So anyway, thank him. Before we talk about that, though, I got a couple interesting things I want to talk about here. There were elections this last weekend in both France and England. Now, they run a parliamentary system, which means that the public there does not elect their prime minister directly. That would be the equivalent our president. What happens is that they elect their local assemblyman, whatever they want to call it. It's the House of Commons in Britain. I don't know what they actually call it in France. They elect their local assemblyman person, and then based on the number of people from that party that get in, those people vote on who their prime minister is. That's the way it works. And the interesting thing here, okay, so and you've heard about this, right? But David was talking about. We were talking about this on last Thursday, or no, the Wednesday. I'm sorry, it's Wednesday. Oh, we took Thursday off. That it appeared there was going to be a giant, once again, another red wave of conservatives being elected in both Britain and France. And here's the deal: that did kind of happen. The conservative, well, first of all, the real conservative party, the party that's actually marked as conservatives, which I think is that the Tories in Britain, if I'm right? Oh, they just failed miserably. I mean, it's the least number of seats they've gotten in Parliament in 200 years, and that's because they're Robbie Sunak, or whatever they name their previous prime minister, just the biggest doorknob on the planet. I mean, they failed spectacularly, but that's not the real conservative or disruptive party in Britain right now. It's the Reform Party that Nigel Farage belongs to. So here's what happened here. So the Reform Party got, in terms of the total of vote counts in the entire country, the Reform Party got the third highest number of votes, but they only got 5 seats in Parliament. And that's because, like, for example, if in your local election you could get, let's say you get the Reform Party got twice as many votes as everybody else, right? Let's say that. But because it's only for 1 seat, it doesn't really transfer to the party at large. And the same thing happened in France. So what happened in France is that Macron, he is, and I don't know the name of that party, but he represents the center-left party in France, and they were looking to get wiped out by the right-wing party. And so what they did at the last minute, they formed an alliance with literally the communists. Literally, I said the Communist Party in France. And so because of that, even though, once again, the right-wing party in France got the third highest number of votes, they're not controlling anything because of this alliance of these 2 other parties. The Macron's center-left party came in second, and the communists did not fare that well, but they still was enough to add on to the Macron's party's total to able to basically blocked the emergence of the right-wing party. And so people pointed out the fact, well, there's some, especially in England, there seems to be some impetus to reform the system because it's not really indicative of what the public's voting for. Now, and people compare that to our electoral college, but there's actually no comparison at all. It's the opposite. And this really bothers me. I have friends who say the electoral college is bullshit. Every 1 vote should go toward, it's like, But here's the reason the founding fathers set up the Electoral College, and it's just as true today as it was 200 years ago. When the country started, or let's say when the Constitution was drafted and enacted in 1792, there were 13 states in the United States, and there were 3 major cities: New York, Boston, and Philadelphia. Now, those cities had way more people in them than basically the rest of the country combined. You're talking about 3 major cities, and the rest of the country was rural at that point, right? So their fear was that somebody in New York City could get elected president without even campaigning anywhere else. Matter of fact, they said, well, it is hypothetically, and this could actually be true, the rest of the country wouldn't even have to know who this person was. And they, because of the high concentration of the votes in New York City proper, this person could get elected president, and they wanted to avoid that. And that's the reason we have the Electoral College, because it more evenly distributes geographically votes across the United States. Now, that's still true today, because the weird thing is, and I don't know if they knew this or took this into account, but people know this now for like 2,000 years. This goes back to ancient Rome, and they knew that it's a really weird thing, and nobody really knows why this happens. But the more dense the population gets in a urban area, the more likely that urban area is to be liberal. And this is carried, like I said, this is carried over for at least 2,000 years. It's a very consistent thing, and nobody really knows why this is. My wife has some theories. She says it because people in urban areas need to help each other more. I don't know. Maybe that's true. Whereas if you're living in Wyoming, like for example, the least dense populated state in the United States is Wyoming. If you live in Wyoming, the entire state has only 250,000 people in it. And it's not unusual for you to live 3 miles away from your neighbor. And so you gotta basically have to fend for yourself, whereas if you're living in a major city, like where I'm sitting in Minneapolis right now, I'm in Northeast, which is right across the river from downtown. This is a fairly densely populated area. And so people kind of sort of have to like watch each other's back. I don't know if that's really true. Also, of course, crime is much more heavy in densely populated areas and in low populated areas. So that's true too. Any rate, my point is that's still the case after 248 years of, well, no, I know 1792. So okay, do the math. Was that like 230, 240? That's the thing. People say, well, the birthday of our country, July 4th, 1776. That depends on how you measure it. And then you got to think about this too. Our Constitution was the second one. It wasn't the first. The first one was the Articles of Confederation, which basically didn't work. I think it was only existed for like 10 or 15 years or something like that. It was a grand failure, and everybody knew it. So right away they went to replace it. So you got that too. So I don't know, but I would say the birthday of the country is the day the current Constitution was ratified. And I know the day, but it was 1792. That's when it happened. And also, and there's a provision for this in the Constitution. The first president was chosen by Congress because they knew that they couldn't get the ball rolling right away. So that was George Washington, and then he ran for a second term, and then he abdicated, which everybody said was one of the coolest things ever. The really interesting thing about that, though, and that brings us to 1800. Which was the first real presidential election. It was technically the third one, but the public didn't vote in the first two. So it was the first real presidential election, John Adams versus Thomas Jefferson. This does not go noticed very often. By the time George Washington left office as president after his 8th year, Congress hated his guts, and you have to understand this guy was one of the most beloved people in the country. He was even then considered the father of our country. I mean, that's why he was the unanimous choice as president, and that's the reason. But by the time the end of his second term, him and Congress were just at wit's end. The congressman couldn't wait to get him out of there, and that's he's a stubborn old bastard, and really, and you got a bunch of people. It's the same now. Nothing's really changed. Oh, except the fact that our president's 142 years old. There's that. and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, this kind of goes unrecorded. But yeah, Congress, he was not a friend of Congress by the time he left. But he did one of the coolest things ever, and that is he did not, even though there's no term limit in the Constitution. Now there is. Was it 29th Amendment, is it? I can't remember. It's the one they enacted as soon. I mean, basically, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was barely in the grave, and Congress passed this amendment saying you can only be president for 10 years max. So, it's either 2 terms, or if you were vice president, 2 terms plus half a term of your predecessor. That's what it is. So they couldn't do that fast enough. He's the only person who's ever been president more than 8 years. Well, yeah, no, I think that's true. I don't think anyone's ever done it for 2 plus a term. And we'll talk about this in a second. LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, in the 1960s, he could have. So he took over for President Kennedy slaying on November 22nd, 1963. And President and Kennedy had about a little more than a year left in his presidency. So Lyndon Johnson became president. Literally, they swore him in literally on Air Force One about 3-4 hours after the assassination. And so he filled out the last, it'll be roughly 15 months of Kennedy's term, and then he ran against Goldwater and he won. And so he was going to run again in 68, and his wife talked him out of it, which is probably good, because the interesting thing about LBJ, and I only found this out recently, that he was actually he was privy to bouts of severe depression. And that doesn't surprise me knowing him, because, he left office kind of a wreck personally. I mean, he went back to his ranch. He had a few speeches, but basically he kind of faded from public life. He died like 6 or 7 years later. But people who said that they knew him said that after he left the presidency, he wasn't the same person. And the impression is, at least I will read into that, and I think other people made the same, that damn military-industrial complex that Dwight Eisenhower warned us about literally ground him into dust emotionally. He was running the Vietnam War, and he wanted to get out. As a matter of fact, I still remember this distinctly. I was 12 years old in 1968 when he announced this. I think it was in March or May. I can't remember. And I was with my parents at one of their friends' houses, and they were playing cards. So I'm just a 12-year-old kid, and I'm watching TV, and the president's on, and I'm watching. And I didn't know this until like this last week, that he announced during this speech, which was about a possible ceasefire in Vietnam, that he was not going to run for re-election. And what I didn't know is that wasn't even in the advanced copies. They distribute, most major speeches presidents give, they distribute to the press advanced copies of the speech. Well, the fact that he was not going to run for re-election was not in there. And he announced it in the broadcast, and everybody just kind of blew up. I still remember it. I saw it live. So interesting. But people are comparing what LBJ did to basically what Biden should do. Now, is Biden going to do that? No, he's not going to do that at all. And matter of fact, I checked the news. I checked Breitbart about a half an hour before we went on here. He's not going anywhere. This morning he sent a letter to Congress, and people say, well, there's a good possibility he didn't even write it. Matter of fact, there's a good possibility he didn't even read it. But he said no. He is not dropping out. And then he called Morning Joe this morning, and everyone's bitching and moaning about that, because it was pretty obvious he was reading from a script. It was a telephone call. There was no video. So, I mean, and then on Friday he goes on with George Stephanopoulos on ABC, and he didn't do anybody any favors. If that was their idea of quelling the tide of getting people to stop, it didn't work at all, because he was just as befuddled and just as bemused on that interview than he was during the debate. We got a call. I'm going to take this. Here we go. Hi, who's this? Hello?
Hello, my friend.
Yeah,
Hello, Jim. How are you?
yes. Hi.
Hi. And you know, your show is very good,
Thank you.
very, very, you know, up to date and everything very nice. But as you know, the French people came basically to um, nowhere ends right now. Neither far left won, neither far right won, and I guess it will be re-election, right? Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, well,
It
I'm having a
happened.
little hard time understanding what you just said, but keep going.
Yeah, I said that in France because of the situation, because of the new elections that it happened, and neither the far left won, neither far right won. So now there is a mass demonstrations, and if this continues, it will be martial law in France. What do you think?
Oh, are you talking about the stuff going on in Europe?
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. So I said, if this continues for another couple of days, the riots, almost people are pissed. The far right is pissed. Far left is mad as the hell, and basically there is nowhere ends, because they thought that far right is won on second election, but then it seems no one wants really, neither far left or far right. So this is really people of France right now. It has a very bad time, and if they continue this near riots in France, many cities, Paris and other cities, then President Macron has no other choice to call martial law because his prime minister was also resigned.
Yeah.
Am I right or wrong?
No, you're right. That's correct. No, what you just, and I didn't even get around to talking about that, but you're right. So the thing is, so there were riots in France, like you said, and they haven't stopped. And even there were riots, even though kind of also like you said, basically nobody won. I mean you're yes, you have that's an accurate portrayal of what's happened.
So that's good. So we are in the same page.
Yeah,
And for your information, Mohammad Pezeshkian won the Ayatollah's,
yeah,
presidency,
right.
but is he is not the president of the Iranian at all, and 80% of Iranians they boycott the election due to same crap is happening for 46 years, and people of Iran are tired, and they decided the best thing say no to Islamic Republic of Iran.
Well, hold it. I got to stop you here for a second because this is you know more about this than I do because I found this really interesting. As far as I could tell, that election in Iran was actually fair. Is that the way you like for the first time like in ages? Is that the way you perceive this?
No, no, no. It wasn't fair at all. It's 46 years of hell for Iranians, and over 10 million people escaped from Iran to other countries as refugees, etc. And Islamic Republic has no legitimacy from the down because
Yeah,
they imposed it to us. The same powers that you know and I know, and the same powers that are creating a mess right now in elections in United States of America, the same powers are pushed Ayatollahs to the Iranian, and we really 90% of Iranians were home. We were home. I remember we never went to the street. We never go there, to welcome the Ayatollahs because we wanted the Shah. But the Shah left, and everything went downward from
yeah,
that time. And it's for 46 years we are in a slave to Islamic Republic of
I understand. But I have to ask you though. Here's the reason I was under that impression, and that is my impression. Him. So the thing is, the reason I thought that, or that people are saying that, is because they actually let him pass through, and normally they wouldn't do that. Is that the way you read this?
Absolutely, absolutely, because he might be killed again, like a Raisi did. Because the reason they let him, because they want to say, see, we have fair elections in Iran and etc. Although 80% of the Iranian people, they were at homes because of, anyway, it was a heat wave, massive heat wave, global heat wave that we are witnessing in United States and around the globe. Was there, and also not because of a heat wave, but because people say no, no vote, no to Ayatollahs, and no to Mushtaba, because his son wants to take over soon after the Ayatollah is dead soon. Khamenei.
Yeah. Hello. Oh, we lost you. Okay. Sorry about that. Call back if you want. I don't know. Your call dropped. So yeah, that's interesting. So and I never got this guy's name. So what he's talking about is the fact that there were also elections in Iran this weekend. And as I said, there's the elections in Iran have been bullshit for like 50 years. But there is the impression that some journalists have been getting that this one might have actually been fair, because the person who was elected is not okay. He's back.
Yes, sorry, because of due to long distance, we are cut off. Sorry.
Oh, where are you? May I ask?
Yeah, in Asia, Singapore.
I'm sorry. Say again.
Singapore. Asia.
Oh, Singapore. Okay. And your name is?
Yes. My name is Mike.
Okay, Mike. Thank you. Thanks for calling. So, by the way, I know people from Singapore. They say it's a pretty nice place.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Actually, we are 10 to 15 years ahead of the United States, and Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia is the same thing, and many Asian cities actually are, because actually Singapore is built by China pretty much. We have a lot of Chinese, originals here too. It's like Taiwan. See, Taiwan is also very, very cutely made as well too. So yeah, unfortunately, when people from USA travels to any of these kind of or NATO countries and Asian countries, and they see the difference, and sometimes they say, "What the hell is going on?" And absolutely, it is right.
Yeah.
Because we keep giving money to Ukraine, we keep sending money to other countries, and we never come first, my friend. And that's the biggest problem. We should not have to be wait, for a surgery in United States for months. I mean, here in Singapore, I have had 3 surgeries, and 3 surgeries is equal to 340,000 Singaporean dollars SGD. But if I was in the United States, then probably they would keep delaying until further notice. Here, when they see something wrong with you, they go ahead and do it. It doesn't matter how much it costs.
Yeah, I've also heard though that, I mean, the police in Singapore can be pretty severe. Is that correct? I mean, I've heard people can get thrown in jail for throwing gum on the ground.
Yes. The reason is, for example, we don't have a gun, but say if I have a gun right now, and the police catch me and say, "Where's my car, permit to carry it?" For example, in Singapore, I cannot provide it. They take me to the jail, and then I have to have defend myself in the court, of course. But then the bottom line is they're going to hang me or hang the person who has, for example, doesn't have a permit. So Singapore is one of the very common city and very, peaceful. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way. Of course, we have some areas are not 2% of the areas are not good, but 98% you can go anytime. After day, night, girls can go walk in the street at 3 a.m. Nobody tells them anything. Nobody even look at them, in the bad way or etc.
Right. And I've always got the impression that, I mean, I have to admit, I find this kind of attractive because, like you said, there's the impression that you can do pretty much anything you want unless you start effing around, and then they crack down on you really hard. So it's like, it's basically, it's like a duality of system. I actually kind of find that kind of attractive. Hey, Mike, I got to ask you. So now I got the impression that are you Iranian?
I was yes, but I have traveled to many countries, so
Yeah.
that's why I am an international journalist, and I have good information about pretty much many countries, and plus my country, USA.
Okay, so let me ask you this then: if you're a journalist and you're kind of familiar with the Iranian situation, now I know that, like you said, the Iranian people are really pissed off about the regime, and they have like for 20 or 30 years. Are the people ever going to rise up? I mean, what do you think is going to happen in the long term?
For these 6 years, yes, we rise up, but Obama saw 3 days of mass riots in Tehran and other cities, and the regime was falling apart. Obama came and said, take it easy with this Ayatollah and etc. Blah blah blah. Don't do it. So then people discouraged. If Obama would come and say, yes, we are with you, we support you in every manner, and do more what you're doing, this regime would be gone long time ago, my friend.
They had some,
But,
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead, sir. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say, Obama had this really crazy theory that there had to be some sort of equilibrium in that area of the world, and so he actually was like empowering the Iranian government. It's absurd. It's the stupidest thing ever. It's like, to me, it's like it's intelligent people overthinking a problem. That's the way I look at it. But
Absolutely, because it was not only one time; it's Ahmadinejad time too. People dressed in green, and basically went to the street and say, "Where is my vote? Where is my vote? Where is my vote?" But it was a checkpoint every half a mile. I mean, there was a total martial law imposed to the Iran.
yeah,
And still Iran is under martial law, regardless, And when you enter to the Iranian airport, you see tanks, it's like many countries in the Latin America, you see tanks and armor. You see military, IRGC, and their ugly faces, And so, you don't want ever to go back to your homeland because, when you go there, you will be arrested for any reason, especially you're from USA, because they can call you that you're a spy of USA, you're a spy of other countries, and etc. That's automatically jail time and hassle, and by the time you prove yourself you are not, you might be hanged. So we advise all Iranians in the United States, think twice before going back to Iran for any reason. Do not go to Iran at this time, and also from other countries as well too.
Oh, you don't have to tell me that. I won't even go. I won't even go to Mexico at this point, let alone Iran. Hey, Mike, may I ask?
Yeah,
and you don't have to mention this. What do you? Is there? What publication do you work for? You don't have to mention it.
I am neutral. I am a journalist, neutral, but I tell the truth as it is. For whatever you ask me, I tell you the truth. What I think. I don't belong to any nations,
Yeah.
and I don't belong to any countries or paid or unpaid. No.
Just wondering. Thank you. Thank you. Before you go here, I want to talk about, you were talking about what's going on in France. I want to talk about what's going on. Are you familiar with what's going on in Britain? It's kind of the same deal. I was talking about that.
Yes, exactly. In Britannia, UK, Labour Party won about 410 seats,
Yeah.
which, the Rishi was just said, what the hell is going on? Yeah, a lot of things is happening around the globe, especially, especially since they want to support Ukraine. Now they can't. UK cannot, Labour Party is not going to permit to send any dime to Ukraine at all, because their agenda is to take care of the, people first,
Mhm.
So hopefully that will be gone. So no man, they cannot really send anything, or armor or any kind of soldiers or navy or even jets, F-35s or F-16 to the Ukraine. So then France has its own problem now. So these are one of the two powerful ones. So now we have to wait and see United States what will happen. That what kind of deadlock will they be deadlock in United States, or will the elections will be delayed in United States due to crisis with Joe Biden, or the election will go as it planned. So these are the very, very sensitive times and that mankind are witnessing.
Hey, Mike, let me run a theory by you. So my guest last Wednesday, his name's David Strom, very, very astute guy. He wrote a column in his, he writes for hotair.com. And he had a very interesting theory, and especially I want to run this by you because you are obviously well-traveled. He says his theory is that it's not that, if you ask a lot of journalists, they'll say, well, populism is taking over the world. But he said, no, that's actually not what's happening. He said his theory is that what's happening is that people are rejecting what the established party is basically everywhere. It's just it happens in most cases, it happens to be left. So they're going to the right. But he said if you look at there's places where it's the right and people are actually going to the left. And I think he has an interesting idea there. In other words, people are throwing out the status quo no matter what it is. What do you think of that?
Absolutely, because people have tested many, governments in the world. People under Shah of Iran, they were very powerful. I mean, dollar was 7 to 1 or 700 riyals. Okay, but today in Iran is 70,000 riyal or 700 to 1. So the difference is 100 times higher. You see, under the Shah, 7 to 1 you could buy $1. In 1997,
yeah,
1998, and then Macron give free airline ride, Air France, to Ayatollahs from Paris to Tehran. So then, everything went haywire. So, they messed up the Iran so bad. Iran is making atom bombs. And by October 1st, this I give you, Iran will make 100 atom bombs. Iran already has over 2,000 atom bombs already, my friend.
Yeah.
So then October surprise will come, November surprise. So let us Put it that way.
Do you think they're going to bomb Israel?
I mean, before they do that, Israelis, whether Joe Biden be with Israel or not, Israelis will nuke IRGC forces, not Iranian, because Iran and Israel are friends with each other for over 2,500 years ago, and maybe even longer. And so Jewish people, they have over 5,000 years of history. So basically, that's not only a possibility, but right now they're taking care of the Hezbollah, the other militias from Iran. And if they take care of that on time, so we will see October surprise and November surprise for sure.
Do you think they'll bomb America? I don't know if they have. I don't know if they have rockets that could reach here, but there's other ways you could do it too.
I mean, they have their own, missiles. They keep building.
Yeah.
They keep advancing, and so even nobody is safe if
No.
if Joe Biden let Iran have atom bomb, which already have it, that means it's very bad news for whole countries everywhere. NATO will be in their directions, and Israel, of course, within 900 miles of Tehran. And so, yes, everybody will be in trouble, and it's like North Korea. We let North Korea to have atom bomb. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're right, and I have. This is really what you just said is really interesting, because I've been talking about the fact that I think the October surprise, or what people call the Black Swan, or whatever you want to call it, would have something to do with the Middle East. That's what I'm saying. And so your theory basically aligns with mine perfectly. So hey Mike, I'm going to let you go. I really appreciate you calling. Please call back. It's like this. You have a very interesting perspective, and we appreciate it a lot. I think the listeners do too. So thank you very much. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, thank you.
You take care.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. That's Mike calling from Singapore, of all places. He says he's Iranian by birth. He knows all about that. Now, I didn't get into that, but he's absolutely right. I mean, that did also happen over the weekend. The Iranians elected a new president. And like I said, the reason people thought that election actually went fair for a change is because the guy that they elected is somewhat opposed to the cleric class in Iran. But also, Mike pointed this out too, that there's a possibility they just let him through kind of to appease critics, because he's not that adversarial toward them. I mean, it's like he is somewhat. So I don't know. It's really interesting. Also, Mike mentioned this too, about the fact that they had a primary election that was very lowly attended, and it was the thought was that it was a protest by the people that we're not going to vote at all because it's bullshit. So the main election, supposedly, I mean, you don't know. These people could be lying through their teeth. But the main election supposedly was better attended than the primary election. But they had something like a record low turnout. I think it was a 28% or something like that for the primary election. But yeah, stuff is going on all over the place. It's like, and now he has a really interesting theory too, and that's the reason I wanted to let him talk about the fact that, yeah, Iranians at this point probably already have an atomic bomb, a nuclear bomb. They probably already have one, and they're going to make more. And he's right. By October, they might have 100 of them. Who knows? I mean, and they're going to start dropping these things because they're warring people. I mean, people think we're warring people. Jesus, look at this. And we mentioned this, I can't remember last week. I can't remember who I was talking to about the fact that I said this, I offered this, and I realized that this could be construed as racist, but I don't care. I think it's a fact. And that is, with the exception of Israel, all the governments, all the countries in the Middle East are 200 years behind us. They are. So you're talking about trying to blend these cultures. It's not going to work. And they're trying, they're trying, we have Muslim people coming over here. They, Britain's basically been overrun by them, and culturally, it's a problem. It's literally like where you are on the timeline of civilization. That's literally what it is. And yeah, okay, you can call me racist. That's fine. I'll accept it. But I think that's just a fact. So that's my theory. I'm sticking to it. I'm really glad he called. That was really, really cool. I do want to mention something he touched on though, and that is, he touched on economics. He was talking about the I can't remember what the name of the monetary unit is in Iran, but yeah, it's because none of these countries know anything about economics at all. And so, I'm really getting tired of talking about this, and David Strom and I talked about this on Wednesday because he wrote a piece about it. I'm really, really getting tired of people talking about all the constant lying Donald Trump does. It's not so much lying as his opinion, whereas Joe Biden actually tells substantive, direct lies constantly. Like here's one. Well, now this is not a lie, a real lie in the sense that technically this is true. You know what? Supposedly 205,000 jobs were created last month, right? All right. There's two things about that. He says I've created more jobs than any other president. Yeah, 1/3 of those 205,000 jobs are federal government jobs. 1/3 of them, and that doesn't add to the productivity of the country at all. It's basically you can wipe them. They shouldn't be included in the figure. They shouldn't, but they are. So oh my God, look at all the jobs we're getting. And yeah, technically, yeah, people went to the federal government and got jobs, but also the federal government is hiring at a rate of 70,000 people a month. Right now, there's over 4 million people in the United States that work for the federal government. That's non-military. That's not including military. 4 million people. Seriously, does the government need that many people? I don't think so. I was talking to Tim Conaway about the fact that you could probably slash the federal budget in half and nobody in the country would notice the difference. Nobody would notice. So I'm not talking the non-defense budget, I mean. So at any rate, there's that, and also the fact that what was the corollary of that too? Hold on, I gotta think about this for a second. Yeah, I'm thinking on the TV. I'm thinking, yeah, um, about the fact that oh shit, I lost my train of thought. Unbelievable. Uh, yeah. So, there's this. Okay, here's the other side of this. In the last 36 months, so Biden's been president about 40 months now, if I'm right. In the last 36 months, all these employment figures, these monthly budgetary figures that the labor statistics and the budgetary office release, all of them have, with one exception, one single month, they've all been revised downward. In other words, the figures aren't accurate. So, he's talking about the 205,000 jobs were created last month. Well, it will probably end up being like 150 next month when they get around to revising it. So that's these figures are not accurate. And I have a strange feeling, I don't know how the hell I got that the government is starting to lie about these figures. And the terrible thing about that is if that's the case, it's the first time ever. These figures have always been considered rock solid so that we can have a comparative, easily compare what's going on in our economy. And now I have the feeling that a lot of other people too that they're starting to lie about it. So they're lying about the figures. But even if they aren't, like I said, 1/3 of the people who were employed last month were employed by the federal government. It doesn't count toward productivity at all. Not at all. They should not be included. The federal government should not be included in these figures, but they are. So the figures look great, you know. So you got Joe. I hired more people than well, no, there was COVID, man. It's like they all came back to work. That's what happened. I mean, the guy lies through his teeth, And here's another one. When I took office, inflation was at 9%. No, it was at 1.7%. You're wrong, Butto. It's just, I mean, this goes on and on and on, and he constantly does this. He does that. I have come to the conclusion. I said this when we had our debate panel, that after the debate 2 Thursdays ago. I've come to the conclusion based on that debate now. I've been wondering for a long time, is Joe Biden deliberately lying or he's delusional? Is he delusional? I've come to the conclusion it's the latter. He actually believes this shit. That's what I've decided. That he's completely delusional. And it's like people are writing articles about this too. He's completely in denial about what's actually going on. That his little brain cannot process it. I don't even think that has to do with any cognitive slip. I don't. I just think he's a delusional human being. I really do. I'm really starting to think that he actually thinks he's done all this shit, and he hasn't. About the fact that he was raised by black people. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I mean, it's hilarious actually. If you stop and think about the stuff he's claimed that has happened or he's done. I mean, but the thing is, no, he keeps saying this thing. Whereas Donald Trump will tell you that what was the thing he was called for lying about? It was about the fact that oh God, I can't remember. It's on the tip of my tongue. It was basically his opinion. He was giving his opinion, And the thing is, and this does bother me about Trump too, and I've said this before, he's a serial exaggerator. That's his problem. And I can't remember who was it Strom that said this about the fact that, well, he's a real estate salesman. That's the way that's what have you ever seen a real estate ad that was actually honest? Well, this is a shitty piece of property. No, you're not going to see that. It doesn't. So he's always selling everything. But I think a lot of instances, even in that debate, I mean, supposedly the feedback he got, there's about 10 people whose opinions he really trusts, and the feedback he got was the same the feedback that our panel did, and that is he had a good but not a great night. There was room for improvement. He could have been better. Where everyone said, "Oh no," well, no. The thing is, you're going against this guy who's just a blubbering idiot. So it's easy, and people said this too. You got to give Trump credit. He's basically laying low and letting Biden hang himself. So the question now is, so Biden, I went before my call. This is where I was at. Oh, got another call. All right, here we go. Hi, who's this?
My name is Nathan in Orlando. I just turned your show on just a few minutes before you entered that interview, and I copied and pasted and I sent it to myself. I want to listen to the whole thing, but what he was saying when you guys were talking about the elections, I have been noticing this. I'm sure you've seen it. They keep telling us stuff that don't really mean anything. It doesn't matter. We know it's not true. And yet they keep telling us, and I'm seeing among the people when it comes to the parties, they're getting just disinterested. I'll give you a good example of this about Biden. Whenever in the 2016, during that election season, Trump was at 77.8 million followers on Twitter. Now, we know that not everybody's a follower. Some of them are just there gathering information. But Biden was like 8.6 million. And they were saying that he was winning. And it's like you keep telling me that something's not true. And it's your people's minds, if they don't accept it, they just kind of get tired and just don't get engaged.
Oh, hold it.
And I see that coming up. I see that coming up in the next election.
Yeah.
I see something that's going to. I'm going to tell something to you, and then you can look into it.
I'm sorry. What was I didn't catch your name. What was your name?
Oh, Nathan.
Nathan. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, there's a guy out there. If you listen, I drive a truck for a living, a gas tanker, and I'm out there late at night. On late night radio, you find a different group of people. There's the guy that believes in this spiritual stuff, like we need to reach out to the UFOs and find out what their goal is, and maybe we can work together. Maybe,
Nathan, you've never heard this show, have you? That's what we got going on here.
But listen, there's this guy that's running for president, and he's not coming out right now. I don't think he can win, but he can split the vote. But his name is Enoch Adamson, and he's on the he's in the mindset of what you hear on late night radio.
I'm not familiar with him. Go ahead.
Okay, well, look him up.
I will.
If you got an email, I can send you something on him.
Yeah, no, I do have an email.
He,
My email's public.
Okay.
It's jim@jimatnight.com.
Jim@night.
Yeah,
.com.
jim@jimatnight.com, right.
Okay, Jim@Jim@night. I'll send you this. Now, I don't think this guy can win, but here he's saying, you know how they say, and he's going to reach a lot of people on this. You know how Trump says, make America great again. He says, make humanity great again. And he's saying stuff like, and this is going to reach some people. We know this ain't true reality, but he says that basically on credit card debt, he's got the answer to that. They can only charge you no more. The banks can charge no more than 5%. Well, the banks are in business to make money. They're not going to go with that. But I'm gonna send you some stuff. Look into him, and just I think he's an element out there that's going to split the vote. And there's another guy out here. I know you remember from back during the Reagan years. The guy, God knows, I think Randall Terry.
Yeah, I remember him.
He's not out here right now, but he's already registered to vote. And one of the things I heard him say that when he hits the ground, and it's going to be at the last minute, he's going to hit the ground. And one of the things that he's got a legal team that's going to support him, and they're going to let him say what he wants to say. He's one of the things he says he's going on to. He's already booked to go on The View, and he's going to be able to say stuff, and they're not going to boo him. But anybody who tries to stop him legally, they're going to get charged. And this, you know how he was real extreme, like he would say, abortion is murder, it's killing babies. And there's a lot of people bought into that. And I agree with him. But right now, the mind of a lot of people in America, that's going to be too extreme for them,
Yeah, I want to get
those are two people.
Nathan, I want to get back to you talking about Biden, because here's the deal. I've been going on about this for basically 4 years. Biden has no real support whatsoever. You're talking about those Twitter followers. Like even in the last week with the campaign stops he did, he doesn't draw more than 200 people at any campaign event. I mean, this has been going on for years. No one shows up to see this guy. And I've actually been keeping track for like 3 or 4 years. I mean, he had... In the 2020 campaign, 5 days before the election, he had 900 people show up in Pennsylvania, and that was about it. Other than that, every single campaign stop he did, less than 200 people showed up. And then at Trump, go ahead.
Yeah, right after this recent debate, or whatever you wanted to call it, the next morning we got a guy here on Talk Radio, a guy named Simon Conway. He announced that Biden was now 2 points ahead of Trump in the campaign. I mean, in the polls, right? And I called and I told the call screener, I said, okay, you tell him he says 2 points. I said, have you looked at the crowds that they gather?
Yeah.
Okay. And I told him, this is what I told him. And I know that Mitt Romney owns Clear Channel, and this stuff came from a boardroom. It did not come from research.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but Mitt Romney owns Clear Channel and iHeartMedia.
Yeah. I don't know how much he owns, but yeah, I'm sure he owns part of it, I've been harping about this for 4 years. This guy has no real support whatsoever. None. Now this is also the reason this is my primary, my background's in the entertainment business, and I know how crowds reflect popularity. And this is the primary reason I think there was some cheating in the 2020 election. I don't see how this guy didn't draw more than 200 people to any campaign event, and then they're saying he got 81 million votes. He got more votes than Barack Obama, who's like the Frank Sinatra of American politics. I mean, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. I mean, it just doesn't. It's so anyway, they can go on to their blue in the face, but I think that's credible evidence myself. But whatever. What do I know? I'm just a guy talking on the TV. So.
Okay. Well, listen. That's Jim@night.
Yeah, at .com, right. Jim at jimatnight.com,
.com.
right. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna send you that, and I'm also gonna send you Barack Obama after the election in an audience, and he's explaining that he wasn't born in Hawaii, he was born in Kenya, and he's talking about, and I don't think it's an American, if it's American audience, because I'm looking at the expressions on the people, they weren't like, oh my God, they were all just kind of enjoying the speech.
Uh-huh.
But he explains that he was born in Kenya, but he thinks it's good that a Kenyan resident can get elected as the president of the United States. So it says a lot about, our world unity.
Yeah.
And,
Also,
I'm
I mean,
send you that.
That would here's my thing on that, Nathan. That would be harder to fake than some of this other stuff because there were his birth made the newspapers, although that could be fake too. But the real thing about that is that his father, man, his father was just like an anarchist. I mean, Chris, everyone gets this mistaken. People think that his book was titled Dreams of My Father. It was actually titled Dreams for My Father. And his father was basically just a rebel, communist. So it's like, I don't know, but yeah, please send me that. I will look at that stuff.
Okay, sir. I'm gonna hang up and keep listening. I'm glad I just ran into you. Came in Sunday and Monday's my nights off, and I came in and I'm gonna go see what's on there, and I ran across you, and I got probably the last 5 minutes of his interview, and I want to go back and listen to that.
Well, thank you.
But I'm gonna hang up and keep listening.
We do this show 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern live. Sometimes I have guests on who the guests aren't live. We pre-record some of that because for a lot of people on the East Coast, 11:30 at night to do an interview is too late. So, but the show itself is always live. So yeah, we do it at 4 nights a week. So yeah, please check in.
Got it.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for listening.
Well, if I ever disagree with you, I'll still tell you keep thinking.
Oh no, if you disagree with me, you got to call in too. You call in, it's like, yeah, that's fine.
I'm just saying, I love to see people. I just love to see people that are thinking and not just hearing what they're saying and falling into it.
Well, yeah, thank you. I do too. That's how come I have no problem calling and disagreeing with me. I have to say, so I've done this show I've done for about 10 months, but I did radio shows for Calling News for about 4 years before this. It is astonishing how intelligent the callers have been. It's like you included. I just really, really appreciate it. It's like we've had very few trolls. I mean, amazingly few, and frankly, very few idiots too. So I don't know. It's like people think the American public's stupid. I don't think so, but whatever.
Well, it was supposed to be we the people.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Yeah, very true. Very true.
It was supposed to be.
Yeah.
One of the things I'd like to get into, if you ever do anything on the Constitution, something I do is I read the Constitution as it's written. And I read a book several years ago, and I contacted a guy, and I told him, it was back when he did it, it was a type, but I said, it's basically you copy and pasted the Constitution, the amendment or the section or whatever, and then you went back and explained what happened in history. And I challenged them on something. There is no electoral college in the Constitution. There's no two-party system, and he had a hard time accepting that. So I typed out this is what I typed out to him. I sent it to him. I said, take your finger, get a copy of the Preamble, U.S. Constitution, Bill of Rights, and take your finger and go through every word in the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and amendments. Touch each word, and when you see the word electors, or college, you won't find it. It's not there. There is no elector. There's electors. It's written 20 times, and I showed him words in the different amendments. It says we the people. Like in the Constitution, in the 24th, we vote for the electors. The electors are citizen peers, and Federalist Paper 68 and Anti-Federalist 68. They both admit that that it's the electors are citizen candidates. You can be an elector. I can vote for you. You can become the elector. And then when you vote for whoever you vote for in two separate elections, I can ask you, why'd you vote for him? And you say, it's my vote. Get out of my face. You know, and this guy sent back and told me, you need to get a site and start, you know, posting some of this stuff. And I'm not a computer nerd. So I just know how to cut stuff on and cut it off. But
Nathan,
I read the Constitution as it's written.
yeah, we're our friend Tim Conaway is coming on the next couple nights. I don't know if it's going to be Tuesday or Wednesday, but he is a constitutional scholar, and we'll talk about that. I do know you're absolutely right about the fact there are no parties in any of the constitutional or the amendments. I know you're right. There's no mention of parties at all, and there are, like you said, there are. It's not electoral college, but there are mentions of electors, right?
Yeah, electors. Well, even listen to this in Article 14, Section 2, the last part of the second sentence. It points out that, and this was after the war, these men got the right, the soldiers got the right to vote for the first time. But it says they get to vote for the president and the vice president and electors of president and vice president. 24 says the right of citizens to vote in any primary shall not be denied. And then it says for president and vice president and electors of president. We got a thing back when Trump in the last election, everybody's mad at Pence because Pence, and they're saying Pence is supposed to count and certify the elections, but the 12th Amendment makes clear that the Congress votes and counts and certifies the president, and the Senate counts and certifies the vice president. But, you know, this is something we've heard, we've learned, and it's in our soul. And when someone says something that contradicts that, we automatically reject it. And This is what I've said. Read the Constitution real slow and out loud, and listen to what your ears are hearing.
Well, the other thing is
I can't make that Thursday night show, but I got you saved now, so I'm going to get home Thursday night, Friday morning, and I'm going to watch this. Listen to it.
We're always
following you by archive.
Right, we're always on demand too. So both at Blog Talk Radio and at Rumble, so you can always play us after the fact. But yeah, we do the show live at 11 p.m. every night. So. Nathan, thanks for calling. Sir. Appreciate it. Call Black, yes. Okay?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I will.
That's Nathan. We get a lot of intelligent callers here. It's like I wasn't bullshitting about that. It's like the people who call up on the show are amazingly astute. So, and I know he's right about that Constitution stuff too. Conaway and I will talk about that because that's a big thing for him too. The thing that I was going to mention to Nathan is that the part of the Constitution that to me is abused the most is the 10th Amendment, which says that anything that isn't explicitly mentioned in the Constitution as being a federal issue belongs to the states. And that's been, at this point, that's basically been evaporated. It's terrible. It really should. And this is what they used to rule in the Dobbs case, the Supreme Court. They sent abortion back to the states, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, I mean, right now you got, I think it's 26 states that have basically approved abortion, and 26 that have denied it, or 24. It's about half and half. You know, and the complaint is, well, what if I live in a state where I can't have an abortion? Well, I'm sorry. You know, it's like nothing's perfect. You know, and maybe that's unfair, but life isn't fair. So that's the way I look at it anyway. All right, and so we were talking about what I was going to talk about before Nathan called up well, we did talk about it, about this thing about the employment, about federal employment. I mean, it's just stupid. These federal employment numbers should not be included in employment statistics, and that also shows you how many people the federal government is hiring. They've been hiring, at least since Biden took office, at least 25% of the job statistics for new hires have been federal employees. At least 25 every month. It's crazy. So I'm going to move on to part 3 here. Now, if you've never seen the show before, I've never listened to it. Part 3 is we talk about like science news, paranormal news, UFO stuff, all sorts of stuff that interests me. So here I got a couple things. A flight from Morocco to London was called it's been on Ryanair. It was dubbed by the people on board as a flight from hell because just before the plane took off, a guy asked a woman if he could switch seats with her. Woman has a baby next to her husband, and she says no. The flight takes off as soon as the seatbelt light goes off. The guy who asked her requested this, and the woman's husband get in a brawl, and the whole thing basically blows up, and half the plane is fighting. It's crazy, and they had to turn around and go back to Marrakesh or where it was in Morocco, wherever I don't know where that airport is. And so then it took them the police come on the plane. It took them 2 hours to actually sort this out, partly because one guy on the flight had a real adverse medical reaction to all the stress going on, all this fighting. So for his own safety and for his own health, they asked him to leave the plane. He refused. So, and they weren't going to let him fly it. And so, anyway, what happened was that, believe it or not, it took them 2 hours to clear the flight out. At that point, the flight crew had gone over their allotted time for the week, so they had to cancel the whole thing. They didn't fly up to tomorrow. So I'm laughing. It's like oh my God, I'd be so pissed. It's unbelievable. So that happened. And then in China, this is her first time ever flying in an aircraft. She gets up and she confuses the bathroom door or the emergency door on the flight for the bathroom door. And she opens it. And of course, now they're still on the ground. They're taxiing, but she opens the emergency door. And of course, that immediately sets off the slide. The inflatable slide goes out and all this sort of stuff, So they had to go back, and that took 3 hours to fix. But the amazing thing is, I didn't know this. It costs, if you deploy that slide on the emergency door, it costs $28,000, and they billed her. Okay, that sounds good, man. Oh, geez. And speaking of fights, Carnival Cruises had a brawl on one of their cruises. That was fun. I watched that. That was great. This is really unusual. In France, and I can't remember the name of the small town, there is a sword that's been embedded in the side of a cliff for about 2,000 years. The sword has mythical properties, and apparently, it's kind of like the King Arthur thing, as if this is France. So who knows what they're talking about. It's in the side of a cliff. It's 100 feet off the ground. It's been in there. It's been embedded in this cliff for 2,000 years. Somebody stole it. They don't know how they got up there. They don't know. And not only that, the town's devastated because this is a huge tourist thing about the fact. I can't remember the name of there's apparently a whole lore that goes about the fact that some, I don't know, when I'm sorry, I sound like Biden all of a sudden. Some soldier threw the sword at the cliff, and it stuck, and so it's been there. And as far as anybody knew, it was not removable, but somebody actually took it, and they're devastated. And then finally, I'm going to end with this because we use this on the show description tonight. Over in Wiltshire, which is a township or a county in England, that's the county where Stonehenge is. There was now this county is famous for crop circles. It is the epicenter of crop circles on the planet. Now, their crop circles show up all over the place, and you have to understand something. And I tried to explain this to Conaway, and Conaway told me I was nuts. But the thing is, this is really true. So there's fake crop circles and real crop circles, and they're pretty easy to distinguish. Fake crop circles are made by humans using boards that actually like press down on the crops. Real crop circles are extremely complex, where the crops are basically interwoven into each other, and also they're anybody who bothers to measure, they've been subjected to extreme microwave radiation. There's that too, which actually blows. It's hard in wheat. It blows out the nodes of the wheat, so the wheat can actually lay down. It's really so. It's hard to explain this, but a fake crop circle, the wheat is pushed down by humans. In a quote unquote real crop circle, it's actually like laid down, which is really bizarre. The whole thing's really bizarre. Any rate, so Wiltshire is the epicenter of crop circle formation on the planet, and there was a crop circle that showed up in Wiltshire. They show up regularly, but the problem is this one is 500 yards from the Stonehenge Visitor Center, and no one saw it being made. And that visitor center with security and stuff is manned 24/7, and no one saw this happen. And it's an unusual crop circle too. It's not really, first of all, it's not a circle at all. It looks more like a snowflake pattern, but still, it's 500. I've seen the pictures, and I probably should have put one out. We're grabbing to put it up here. It's 500 yards from the visitor center. So how the hell did that happen? No one saw it. No one saw them make it. So the assumption is that because it takes humans, even a team of highly trained humans, 3 or 4 hours to make a crop circle. Supposedly the real ones are made in like 30 seconds, and there are supposedly films of people have made cell phone video of people actually watching these crop circles being made, and it's magic, so it's basically happens in literally less than a minute, these giant elaborate designs. So, but no one saw this one being made. So I don't know. UFOs are trying to tell us something or something. I'm booking guests for the summer, for the entire summer, and it's going fairly well. I just started, but still, we got a few people coming on, a few UFO people, a few spiritual people, some politics, a whole bit. Got a guy named, I'm going to mention his name, Jeff Shepard. He has a documentary coming out in August about the assassination of JFK, and he's coming on the week his documentary is released. So that's going to be really cool. Yeah, so that's what we do here. Nathan was talking about this. That's what we do. Yeah, there's a reason this show is on late at night, because it's like this is what I want to talk about, and you can't get away with talking about it during the day. You can't. Too much pressure, too much advertisers, all sorts of stuff. I'd rather take less money and do what I want to do, and that's what I'm doing. So tomorrow night, I don't know if Tim Conaway's going to be joining us tomorrow or Wednesday. I don't know. Thursday, Mark Tapscott from the Epoch Times, Capitol Hill. It's going to be really interesting to see what he has to say. Now, next week, Monday through Thursday, is the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. I haven't actually talked to them, but I'm trying to get our regular debate panel, our month in review panel, to come on next Thursday after Trump's speech, after the whole thing's done. And we'll see if we can do that. I'm planning. I'm doing show planning out loud to you. Why? I don't know. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'll be here. We're talking. Whatever it is, we're talking about it. So yeah, and Joe's not quitting. And I was just before we got interrupted with a phone call. I was going to say that a half an hour before we went on live here on Breitbart, they ran an article about the fact that Joe, AOC, and Ilhan Omar, and I'm sitting in Ilhan Omar's district right here, they have come out in support of Joe, and apparently it looks like Joe might not go. So he's going to be the nominee, and God bless him. It's like, they will, if that happens, they will get slaughtered probably. So I'll try. I know they're going to try to come up with something about the fact that, Donald Trump had sex with some extraterrestrial or something like that, but I don't think it's going to work this time, but we'll see. Stranger things have happened too. Anyway, I want to thank you folks for watching very much. Listening. Yeah, we're on Blog Talk Radio, audio only. We're on 5 different platforms. You go to our website, jimatnight.com/watch. There's a list there. Let me see if I can remember. YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Provo, and oh god, I can't remember. Any rate, we're on those places. Well, I recommend Rumble. I just assume YouTube's going to cancel us. We've done 133 shows as of tonight. Before our 100th show, YouTube flagged us for misinformation 5 times. So I think they're shadow banning us too. I don't know, because we don't get a lot of traffic there. So relative to other places. So I think there's that too. They want us to go away. Sooner or later, they'll probably just pull the plug. That's fine. I do not give a fuck. I don't. I have no fucks to give anymore. Good night, Esperanza. Good night, Uncle Donnie. And good night to you, wherever you are. Even in Singapore. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Take care.